The email hit my inbox like a thunderbolt. Subject: Auction Notice. Willow Creek Estate, $50 million. My heart stopped. My family's legacy, the home my father poured his soul into, was up for sale. But the name listed as seller: Nathan Carter. My husband. How could he? I stared at the screen, hands trembling, the walls of our Charleston mansion closing in. Was this a mistake or a betrayal? One thing was clear: I had to act fast, or everything I cherished would be gone. My name is Emma Larson, and if you saw me on the streets of Charleston, you'd probably think I'm just another tech worker, maybe grabbing coffee at a corner shop. My laptop bag slung over one shoulder, but the truth runs deeper, carved into the stones of Willow Creek Estate, a sprawling mansion nestled in the low hills outside Charleston, South Carolina. It's not just a house, it's my father's heart, his dream, his legacy. 15,000 square feet of history, with ivy-draped limestone walls, magnolia gardens that bloom like secrets, and a shimmering lake that catches the sunrise like a painting. Valued at $50 million, sure, but to me, its worth can't be measured in numbers. My father, William Larson, was no ordinary man. A master architect, he designed skyscrapers that pierce the clouds in cities like Atlanta and Miami, but Willow Creek was his true masterpiece. He spent 12 years building it, sketching every arch, laying every beam with his own hands. I can still see him standing in the grand hall, his calloused fingers tracing the oak paneling, saying, "Emma, this isn't a mansion, it's a home, built with love, not money." His voice was steady, like the low country tides, and I believed every word. My mother, Margaret Larson, was his perfect balance. A community college economics professor, she could make budgets sound like poetry. She didn't care for silk dresses or diamond rings, but her lectures on saving, investing, and living wisely could light up a room. I remember her sitting at our kitchen table, her glasses slipping down her nose, telling me, "Emma, wealth isn't what you own, it's how you live." She lived that truth, packing my lunches with care, teaching me to value a dollar earned over a dollar given. Growing up in Willow Creek, I could have been the kid who flaunted wealth, but my parents had other plans. They sent me to public school, where I rode the bus, ate peanut butter sandwiches, and wore sneakers from the discount store. My friends didn't know about the estate's soaring ceilings, or the lake where I'd skip stones at dusk, and I liked it that way. I wanted to be Emma, not the rich girl from the hill. My mother's words stuck with me. Let people see who you are, not where you live. Willow Creek wasn't just a backdrop, it shaped me. Its quiet halls taught me humility. Its gardens taught me patience. And my parents, with their unshakable values, taught me that true wealth lies in character. But life has a way of testing those lessons, doesn't it? And soon enough, I'd learn that even the strongest foundations can crack if you trust the wrong hands. When I was 10, I fell in love with photography, not the fancy kind with studio lights, but the raw beauty of Charleston's marshes and moss-draped oaks. I begged my mom for a camera, a real one, not a toy. Margaret didn't blink. She just smiled, her eyes twinkling, and said, "Emma, would you like to earn it yourself?" Earn it? I was a kid, but her tone wasn't negotiable, and deep down I wanted to prove I could. She set me to work. Mornings I watered the magnolia gardens at Willow Creek, the dew soaking my sneakers. Afternoons I dusted my father's library, sneezing as I organized his architecture books. Evenings I helped my mom sort old lecture notes. Every chore earned me a few dollars, tucked into a tin box under my bed. It took 5 months. 5 months of sweaty work, skipped playdates, and aching arms. But the day I counted out enough for that camera, I felt like I'd conquered the world. I'll never forget walking into the electronics store, my tin box clutched tight. The clerk raised an eyebrow, but I handed over every penny with pride. That night, I snapped my first photo of the lake at Willow Creek, golden under the sunset. My father, William, looked at the picture and grinned. "Emma," he said, his voice low, "this camera isn't just a tool, it's a lesson. You built this moment, not your last name." That camera became my companion, capturing Charleston's tides and my childhood dreams. But more than that, it taught me something my parents knew. I'd need nothing feels sweeter than what you earn with your own hands. My father used to stand on the estate's balcony, arms crossed, and say, "One day, Emma, this house will be yours, but don't let it own you. Let your value come from what you do." I was too young to grasp the weight of those words then, but they sank deep like roots in the low country soil. Little did I know life would soon test that lesson in ways I never imagined. At 13, I was just another kid at Charleston's Harborview Middle School, blending into the crowd with my faded backpack and scuffed sneakers. My best friends Sophie Miller-Lilly and Tara were my world. We'd spend lunch breaks trading cookies, laughing over silly jokes, and racing across the soccer field. Sophie was the spark of our group, always loud, always curious. She'd toss her curly hair and ask Emma, "Is it true your house has a secret library or a fancy pool?" I'd just shrug, flashing a half smile. I didn't want to be different. I wanted to be their Emma, the one who shared her chips, not the girl from Willow Creek Estate. I worked hard to keep my family's wealth hidden. My parents, William and Margaret, drilled that into me. "Don't let money define you," my mom would say, packing my lunch with a handwritten note, so I never bragged about the estate's limestone arches or the lake that glowed at dusk. To me, those were just home, not a status symbol. But secrets have a way of slipping out, don't they? And Sophie's questions always felt like a spotlight I couldn't dodge. One spring afternoon during recess, Sophie bounded over, her eyes gleaming. "Emma, check this out." She thrust a pair of sleek wireless earbuds into my hands, her birthday gift from her dad. They were shiny, expensive, the kind of thing I'd never ask for. "Try 'em," she insisted. I hesitated, but her grin was infectious. I slipped them on the music, crisp and clear. Then as I handed them back, my fingers fumbled. The earbuds slipped, hit the pavement with a sickening crack. My stomach dropped. One bud was crushed, wires exposed like tiny veins. "I'm so sorry, Sophie," I stammered, my face burning. Her lips quivered, but she didn't cry. "It's fine," she muttered, scooping up the pieces, but her eyes said it wasn't fine at all. "I promised I'll fix this. I swear." That night, I told my mom everything. Margaret sat me down, her gaze steady. "Emma," she said, "you can't use family money to erase mistakes. You'll fix this with your effort." Her words stung, but I knew she was right. I wasn't about to let my family's wealth be my crutch. For 3 weeks, I threw myself into odd jobs. I shelved books at the local bookstore, the dusty smell clinging to my clothes. I swept the neighbor's porch, dodging spider webs. Every dollar went into my tin box, the same one I'd used for my camera years before. My hands blistered, my back ached, but I didn't care. I was proving something to Sophie, to my mom, to myself. Finally, I had enough. I took the earbuds to a repair shop downtown, the clerk promising they'd be good as new. When I handed them back to Sophie at school, my heart swelled with pride. "Here," I said, "they're fixed." But Sophie didn't smile. She turned the earbuds over her lips, curling. "Fixed? Or did you just buy some cheap knockoff?" she said, loud enough for others to hear. I froze. What know I before I could explain? She turned to Lily and Tara. "Emma's rich. Bet she thinks this is pocket change." My chest tightened. I'd spent weeks working, sacrificing, and now this. Then Sophie's voice dropped sharp as a blade. "You probably broke them on purpose, huh? To show off." By the next day, the rumor was everywhere. Kids whispered in the halls. Emma smashed Sophie's earbuds to flex her money. She swapped them with fakes. Even Lily and Tara avoided me, their eyes darting away. Sophie had spun a story, and the school ate it up. I felt like I was drowning in stares, my throat tight with shame. I wasn't rich Emma to them anymore. I was a liar, a snob. The betrayal cut deeper than I expected, like a splinter I couldn't pull out. I told my parents, expecting them to fix it. But my dad William just listened, his arms crossed. "Emma," he said, his voice calm but firm. "The truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to stand." He took a day off work, a rare thing for him, and came to school with me. In the principal's office, he laid out the repair receipt, the warranty, and a letter from the shop confirming the earbuds were genuine. No anger, no accusations, just facts. "My daughter made a mistake," he said, "and she made it right. That's who she is." The principal nodded, and Sophie got a week of detention for spreading lies. Lily and Tara mumbled apologies, but the damage was done. I didn't want their friendship anymore. I started eating lunch alone, my earbuds, the ones I'd earned years ago, my only company. That broken pair of Sophie's, I kept them tucked in a drawer at Willow Creek. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Trust is fragile, and some people will only see your wallet, never your heart. My dad's words from that day stuck with me. As we left the school, he put a hand on my shoulder. "Emma," he whispered, "don't let their lies define your worth." I nodded, but the hurt lingered, a quiet bruise. I thought I'd learned how to guard my heart. But years later, I'd find out that betrayal can come from the people you love most. And it cuts even deeper when you don't see it coming. At 35, I thought I'd found my anchor. His name was Nathan Carter, a public relations expert. I met at a tech conference in Atlanta. He sat in the fourth row, his sharp blue eyes locked on me, as I spoke about cybersecurity. After my talk, he asked, "How do you balance digital convenience with the risk of losing yourself?" It wasn't a show-off question, it was real curious. I liked that. Over coffee, we talked for hours, his laugh easy, his ideas bright. Nathan didn't care about my last name or my family's wealth, or so I thought. We started texting, then calling, then stealing weekends for hikes in the Blue Ridge Mountains. He'd tease me about my old camera, saying, "Emma, you're the only person still lugging around a DSLR." I'd laugh, feeling light, like I could be myself with him. He never asked about Willow Creek Estate, never probed about my parents' legacy. When I jokingly said, "Aren't you gonna Google me?" he just shrugged. "I'd rather know the Emma you show me." That sealed it. After 18 months, we married by the Savannah River, a small ceremony with Spanish moss swaying overhead. My mom, Margaret, squeezed my hand as I walked down the aisle. "Your dad would have loved him," she whispered. I believed her. But cracks form quietly, don't they? 2 years after my dad. William passed from thyroid cancer. I brought Nathan to Willow Creek. I hadn't been back since Dad's death. The memories were too heavy, the lake too still without his voice. Nathan stepped through the iron gates, his jaw tight. The estate's limestone walls glowed in the afternoon sun, magnolias framing the path like a painting. "Emma, you grew up here." His voice was soft, but his eyes flickered something new, something hungry. I brushed it off. He was just surprised, right? Then the questions started. At first, they were casual. How long did your dad take to build this place? Who keeps up the gardens? But soon they sharpened. Has the estate been reappraised lately? What's the plan for ownership? I'd answer vaguely, my stomach twisting. This wasn't the Nathan who hiked with me, who laughed at my bad puns. One night over dinner in our Charleston condo, he poured wine and said, "Emma, if we put both our names on the deed, it'd simplify things. Legally, I mean." My fork froze midair. "It's a family matter, Nathan," I said, my voice steady but cold. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Things unraveled fast. My mom needed me more. After Dad's death, she was grieving, her strength fading. I spent days with her at Willow Creek, sorting through Dad's sketches, planting new magnolias. Nathan grew distant, his warmth replaced by sharp edges. One night, I came home exhausted, my hair still smelling of garden soil. He stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "Emma, how long are you gonna keep this up? I'm your husband, not a roommate." His words hit like a slap. "I'm supporting my mom," I said, my voice cracking. "Don't you get that?" He just stared. "Our marriage needs you too, or don't I?" I wanted to scream, to shake him, to find the man I'd married. But doubt crept in. Was I neglecting him? Was I wrong? Then came the email that shattered everything. I was prepping for a cybersecurity meeting when my phone pinged. Auction notice, Willow Creek Estate, $50 million. My hands shook as I opened it. Nathan's name was listed as the seller, his signature scrawled on a transfer form. My vision blurred. How dare he? The estate wasn't his to touch. It was my father's soul, my family's heart. I confronted him that night, the condo's silence deafening. "Nathan, what the hell did you do?" He didn't flinch, just leaned back in his chair, smug. "I did what's best for us. I paid a lawyer, Greg Sullivan, $400,000 to handle the transfer. It's pending, Emma. We're a team, right?" My heart pounded, rage and betrayal choking me. "You forged my name. You tried to steal my legacy." His smirk faded. "Steal, I'm your husband. What's yours is mine. If you won't share, maybe we're done." I called Robert Hayes, my dad's lawyer. My hands trembling. Robert's voice was grim. "Emma, there's no Greg Sullivan licensed in South Carolina. Nathan's been scammed." I sank to the floor, the truth sinking deeper. Nathan hadn't just betrayed me. He'd been fooled by a con artist, wiring hundreds of thousands for fake documents. But the money didn't matter. His betrayal did. "You didn't just break my trust," I told him, my voice low. "You broke us." He opened his mouth, but I walked away. There was nothing left to say. The air in our Charleston condo felt heavy, like a storm about to break. Nathan's betrayal wasn't just a crack, it was a chasm. I filed for divorce the next morning, my hands steady as I signed the papers. Robert Hayes, my father's lawyer, worked fast. He confirmed Nathan's transfer attempt was void, his forged documents worthless, his lawyer, Greg Sullivan, a ghost who'd vanished, with $400,000. Nathan didn't stop there. He tried to sue me, claiming half of Willow Creek Estate as marital property. His audacity burned, but I wasn't scared. I had the truth, and I had Robert. The courtroom was cold, all polished wood and hushed voices. Nathan sat across from me, his suit wrinkled, his eyes hollow. He'd lost his charm, his confidence, his money. The judge barely glanced at his claims. Robert presented my father's will, the estate's title, and proof of Nathan's fraud. "Mrs. Larson is the sole owner," Robert said, his voice like iron. The gavel fell, case dismissed, but Nathan wasn't done. One night, he showed up at Willow Creek's gates, banging on the iron bars, shouting, "This is my right." My security team, trained by my dad years ago, escorted him away as he screamed into the dark. I watched from the balcony, my heart racing but unbroken. He couldn't touch me anymore. I moved back to Willow Creek the next week, leaving the condo behind. The estate welcomed me like an old friend, its limestone walls warm in the sunlight, the magnolia gardens whispering peace. My mom, Margaret, joined me, her grief softening in the place where my dad's spirit lingered. We walked the lake's edge, her hand in mine, and I knew I couldn't let this house be just a memory. It deserved more. We deserved more. I had an idea, bold and terrifying. What if Willow Creek became a haven not just for us, but for others? I pitched it to my mom over coffee, my voice shaky. Let's turn the estate into a place for joy, weddings, concerts, retreats. Her eyes lit up, the first real spark since Dad's death. "Your father would love that," she said, and so Willow Creek Haven was born. We started small. The basement, once a dusty storage space, became a cozy concert hall with exposed stone walls and soft amber lights. The gardens transformed into an outdoor wedding venue, with a white arbor draped in vines and rows of lavender swaying in the breeze. My mom, with her knack for beauty, designed every detail: floral arches, lantern-lit paths. I hired local engineers to ensure the estate met safety codes, their nods of approval like a blessing. The first event was a young couple's wedding. They stood under the arbor, their vows trembling with hope. Emma, the bride, whispered, "This isn't just a place, it's a beginning." Her words hit me hard. I was giving others what I'd lost, a chance to start anew. But I wanted to do more to honor my dad in a way that reached beyond these walls. So I founded the William Larson Foundation, a scholarship fund for kids who couldn't afford college. Architecture, cybersecurity fields. My dad and I loved. At our first fundraiser, held in Willow Creek's Grand Hall, we raised $200,000. I stood on the stage, my voice steady, and said, "My father believed in building dreams, not just buildings. This is for him." The crowd applauded, but my mom's proud smile was all I needed. Those scholarships weren't just money, they were hope, a way to keep my dad's legacy alive. Life at Willow Creek began to breathe again. My mom found joy in arranging flowers, her hands steady as she crafted centerpieces. I'd catch her humming Dad's favorite jazz tunes, her grief easing with every bloom. The estate buzzed with laughter, couples dancing under string lights, friends toasting at reunions. Each event felt like a stitch, mending the tears Nathan left behind. I wasn't just rebuilding a house, I was rebuilding me. One evening, as the sun dipped low, I stood by the lake, its surface rippling gold. I thought of my dad, his words echoing, "Let your value come from what you do." I'd lost so much trust, loved the life I'd planned, but I'd gained something stronger. Willow Creek Haven wasn't just a venue. It was proof that pain could become purpose. And for the first time in years, I felt whole standing on the land my father built, ready for whatever came next. The divorce papers were signed in a sterile office downtown, the Charleston skyline gray through the window. Nathan Carter sat across from me, his hands unsteady, dark circles framing his eyes. The man who'd once charmed me with his quick wit was gone, replaced by someone small, defeated. He didn't fight, didn't argue. He just scrawled his name and left without a word. I stood up, my voice quiet but firm. "I hope you find yourself, Nathan." It wasn't forgiveness, just a wish for the stranger he'd become. I walked out, the weight of 2 years lifting like fog off the Savannah River. Back at Willow Creek Estate, I settled into a new rhythm. The mansion, once heavy with grief, hummed with life. My mom, Margaret, took up painting, her canvases bursting with magnolias and low-country sunsets. We'd sit on the porch at dusk, sipping sweet tea, the air thick with jasmine. The estate wasn't just our home anymore, it was Willow Creek Haven, a sanctuary for love and new beginnings. Couples exchanged vows under the garden arbor, their laughter echoing across the lake. Families reunited in the concert hall, their stories weaving into the walls my father William had built. Each event felt like a promise kept to him, to myself. One spring morning, as I reviewed bookings for the Haven, an email landed in my inbox. Subject: thank you. The sender: Nathan. My finger hovered over the delete button, my pulse quickening. Why now? Curiosity won. I opened it. "Emma," he wrote, "I know I don't deserve your time, but I need to say this. Thank you for ending us when you did." It forced me to face who I'd become. I'm working at a job center in Raleigh now, helping people rebuild after rock bottom. It's not much, but it's honest. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just know the man you once believed in wasn't all a lie. I was just too weak to hold on to him. Wishing you strength always. Nathan. I closed my laptop and walked to the estate's balcony, the lake shimmering below. The words stirred something, not pain, not anger, just clarity. Nathan was finding his way, piecing together a life from the ashes of his mistakes. I didn't need to respond. His redemption wasn't mine to carry. But knowing he was trying, it loosened a knot I hadn't realized was there. I looked out at the magnolias, their petals soft against the breeze, and felt a quiet peace. The past was done. I was free. The first memorial for my dad came on a warm June evening. We kept it simple, just like he'd have wanted. Close friends, old colleagues, neighbors who'd known him since I was a kid. The grand hall glowed with candlelight, white roses lining the walls. His photo sat on a table, his smile steady, eternal. I spoke briefly, my voice catching. My father built this house with his hands, but he built US with his heart. My mom squeezed my hand, her eyes shining. As the ceremony began, I glanced at the security feed. A figure stood at the gates. Nathan, thinner, his shirt creased, his face worn. He saw the camera, raised a hand as if to say, "What, I'm sorry I stepped outside, keeping my distance. Why are you here, Nathan?" He swallowed hard, his voice low. I wanted to honor your dad. I know I don't belong here, Emma. I've lost everything." His eyes pleaded, but I stood firm. "You had a chance to keep one thing, my trust. You chose greed instead." The hum of voices drifted from the hall, the memorial continuing. I took a breath. This day is for my father, not for your regrets. If you respect me or him, you'll leave. He nodded, stepping back, his shoulders slumping. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he said. "Just don't hate me." I didn't answer. Hate, I didn't have room for it. I signaled the guards who escorted him away. Their steps soft on the gravel, I returned to the hall, my dad's photo waiting, and let the ceremony carry me forward. That night, I sat in the tea room my dad had designed for my mom, rain pattering on the windows. I poured a cup of Earl Grey, its warmth steadying my hands. Nathan's visit, his letter, they were ripples, not waves. He'd stormed into my life, shaken everything I thought was solid, but storms pass. The magnolias still bloomed, my mom still laughed. And I slept in peace, the estate's quiet strength wrapping around me like a promise. By summer's end, Willow Creek Haven was thriving. We hosted an autumn wedding, all golden candles and wildflower bouquets. The bride, a poet from Savannah, hugged me as she left. "You didn't just give us a venue, Emma. You gave us a home for our story." Her words settled deep like roots. My mom and I kept the pace slow, 3 events a month, every detail perfect. The staff, handpicked for their heart, became family. The estate wasn't a relic anymore. It was alive, a testament to resilience, to love that endures. As winter crept in, I stood on the balcony, the air crisp, the lake glinting under a pale sky. A couple posed for photos below the bride's laughter. Bright, the groom holding her close. I rested my hand on the railing, its wood smooth under my palm, and knew this was it. The end of one journey, the start of countless others. Willow Creek wasn't just my father's legacy. It was mine, built not from wealth, but from choices, from standing tall when trust crumbled. Here's what I've learned, and I hope it stays with you. First, protect your assets. Keep legal documents safe, know your rights, and never let someone pressure you into sharing what's yours. Second, trust wisely. Give your heart to those who value you, not your possessions. Third, turn pain into purpose. Loss hurts, but it can fuel something beautiful, like Willow Creek Haven or whatever dream you build from your own broken pieces. So what do you think of my journey? How have you turned hardship into hope? Share your story below, and let's keep these conversations alive. The world needs more light, and I believe you've got some to share.